Good morning. Today is day 42 of hiking the Appalachian Trail in 100 days. So far the terrain has been not too bad. I was talking to some people at the campsite last night though, and they said that yesterday there were SOBOs, so basically what I'm doing today was one of the more challenging days in Pennsylvania for them. And so I don't know when that's gonna come up, because so far hasn't really been too bad at all. This morning for the first 4-ish miles, I did want to answer some questions that I had about logistical things with the trip. So someone asked something about resupply and how I plan my packages and stuff like that. So basically, before the trip, I planned out every single day of how many miles I intended to do and where I intended to camp for the night. And then I found towns along the way. And I mainly did this using the guidebook that I bought. I bought the AWOL AT guide, and there's another popular one, but I bought AWOL's guide. So I just found towns that were sort of close-ish to the trail. Got a daddy log leg on me there. I found towns that were close-ish to the trail, every 3 to 6 days apart, and then I planned to stop there. Most of the towns I'm just going to the post office to get a package, but some of the towns I'm planning to be there on Sundays, so I have to just had to find a store to go to, and I'll just buy food when I'm through towns on Sundays. In terms of the packages, so I basically bought all the food before I left, and I put it in boxes. I put some items in the freezer that I thought would be best to keep in the freezer until it was closer to the time to ship. And I created shipping labels, shipping labels, and kind of instruction sheets for my parents of like when to ship the box and what items they needed to add from the freezer to that box. And then basically my parents just ship them out. My dad is kind of taking charge of that, and so they just ship them out, and then I go to the post office. And the post office hours are definitely something that I paid attention to a little bit, because especially on Saturdays the hours are limited. Usually during the week they aren't too bad, but usually they don't open till 8 or 9 in the morning, and they close sometime in the afternoon around 4 or 5 o'clock. So that's something I do have to watch out for a little bit. So that's how I kind of do the food and resupply. For the most part, I haven't, I've really only had 2 places where I've bought food instead of gotten packages, and that was early on in Maine and New Hampshire. But my next resupply in about 2 days will be in Hamburg, Pennsylvania, and I'm just going to go to the Walmart there. And that one, yeah. So that's kind of how the resupply works, for me at least. Lots of people do it lots of different ways, but that's kind of what I'm doing. And then the second question was about charging electronics. So I have my phone and my watch, and I'm tracking all the hikes every day on my watch. in terms of like GPS data basically. So, and my watch battery is pretty crappy. So it usually doesn't last the whole day. But I have a rechargeable battery. It's kind of overkill, I think, actually. It's around 25, maybe 26,000 milliamp hours. So that can charge the watch like over 100 times. And it can charge my phone somewhere in the range of 3 to 5 times. I think close to 5 times. And so usually sometime midday I have to stop for a little bit and recharge my watch battery. I think it can last probably about 7, close to 8 hours. So most days, as long as I make it a few hours into the day, if I have to stop for some reason, I'll just charge the watch battery and then be good to go. And in terms of the phone, usually I only use like 20 to 40% of my phone battery a day. So the portable battery will really last a while, but honestly, I have a lot of opportunities to recharge it, or I found there's a lot of opportunities. So like yesterday I was in McDonald's for like 2 hours, so I recharged it there, and I got pretty much everything up to full while I was there. And then a lot of like little places I've been just have opportunities to charge just for a little bit. So like a lot of the delis or ice cream places or pizza places I went to in like New Jersey and New York, you know, maybe I was only there for like half an hour, but I charged a little bit and that helped. And then yeah, just places along the way, you know, it hasn't really been that big of an issue for me. I mean, I certainly have to like pay attention, I guess, and take a few extra minutes to like get my battery out of the bag and plug it in and stuff when I am in a place where I can charge. But like I said, it hasn't really been an issue, and I don't really anticipate it being an issue the rest of the trip because of how it's been so far, I guess. On this hillside here, looking out, I think down there is the town of Palmerton. In about 3 miles, I'll be down to a road at the Lehigh River, and I know Palmerton is about 1.5 miles on the road from there, kind of around the corner there. So I think that edge of that town we saw was Palmerton. Terrain has been interesting today. Not too bad. Definitely some rocky sections though. Some kind of rock scrambling type stuff, I guess. And I am definitely looking forward in about 2 miles coming down the Lehigh Gap, because I know it's right here. There's pretty good views, and it's kind of big boulders. So from some people's perspective, SOBO, it's really hard, and from some people's perspective, it's really fun coming up this hill here. But I get to go down it, so we'll see how that goes. Some more rocks here, and when people talked about Pennsylvania being rocky and awful, this is kind of what I envisioned. You know, the whole state for like 200 whatever miles would be, but it's certainly not like that the whole way. And I hear, like I've said, it gets easier for me as I go along, generally speaking, towards the south. Pretty warm today, and kind of up on top with not much trees in this section, so the sun's out but there is a little bit of a breeze, which certainly helps a little bit. Climbing down into the Lehigh Gap here, and pretty awesome views out over these towns and areas. Nice little breeze right now, and just kind of give you a little idea of what the rock climb descent is looking like for me. It's not really super bad, nothing I'm really scared of or anything. It just takes a little longer and you got to go a little slower for sure. And it's a little bit of, problem solving in terms of figuring out what the best way to go is as well. Crossing the Lehigh River. Nice breeze coming off. Feels pretty good on this hot day. Today is a hot day for sure. Earlier, the last mile or two, coming down that hill into the Lehigh Gap, I was out in the sun a lot, and then I was on a lot of rocks, and those were pretty warm and kind of reflecting some heat. So I was definitely getting pretty hot going over there, coming down there. And then once I got down, basically had to go right back up the other side, about 1,000 feet of climbing. So I was getting pretty hot and sweaty, but there was a nice spring a little bit more than halfway up the other side. So I stopped there for my midday break, recharge a little bit, refill water, have a snack, and less than 8 miles left for the day. Made it the rest of the way up to this ridge line. So not a whole lot of climbing, just some little gradual ups and downs, I think. And I think the shelter and campsite has a similar water situation as the one we stayed at last night. I think there is a decently flowing spring, but it's kind of down the hill a little bit. So should be fine on water. Just have to work a little bit to get to it. Deer over there just munching away. 10 or 15 yards away. It was less than 5 yards when I first saw it, right by the trail. And then it just kind of ran over there and doesn't seem to mind me all that much. In the tent for the night, and the shelter I'm staying near is the Bake Oven Knob shelter. And there's no privy or water source nearby. There is some springs going down the hill, but like last night, it's basically the furthest one down the hill is the only one with any water. It was about 0.4 miles down the hill. So I learned my lesson yesterday, and I cooked my dinner, had enough water to cook dinner, and then I went down the hill and filled up pretty much all the water bottles and bladders I have. So I only had to go down once. But this spring was, it had a pipe, so that was nice because it was pretty easy to fill up from, but it was very slow. So it took almost 5 minutes to fill my 2-liter bladder. But I got water, and that's good. It did cool down a little bit this afternoon, kind of some clouds came out, and it actually rained just a tiny bit for like 2 minutes. So that definitely helped it cool down a little bit, and it's not super bad right now, still kind of warm. But so far it's about 8 p.m. and I don't think anyone else is at this shelter or camping area. The place I'm camping is actually a tiny bit north on the trail from the shelter, because there's not really any
tent sites right by the shelter. But I did hang out at the shelter and eat my dinner because there's some nice picnic tables there. So today was 24.5 miles. There was some reasonably difficult terrain, I guess. Definitely going down into Lehigh Gap, there was a steep rocky section, but that wasn't really even that long, so it wasn't super difficult. And then there were some rocky sections along the way, but really nothing too bad. And I sort of feel like I'm getting out of the worst of the rockiness already in Pennsylvania. So good day today. This morning, I answered some of your questions about logistical stuff. Tomorrow, I do want to give thanks basically to everyone that's been supporting me and try to name people and groups. So definitely be on the watch for that video tomorrow.